Hey guys, today we're here at PuRest Float Center to see if floating is a good treatment for anxiety. Let's go. This is Chris Fischman. He's the owner of PuRest Float Center. Tell me what floating is, because it just sounds like witchcraft to me.
Definitely. It does sound something bizarre, something you don't do normally. Essentially, floating is a nicer term for sensory deprivation. Okay, so essentially what you're doing is we're not just floating, we're limiting stimulation to your mind. Okay, so what happens when you limit stimulation to your mind is it actually slows down. It goes into what's called a theta brainwave, which is a bridge between conscious and unconscious. Okay, so within this state, everyone has experienced this state. When you wake up in the morning, first thing in the morning, and you're awake, but you're not quite awake, and you have these flash dreams, that's a theta brainwave. Now that's about 5 minutes of your morning. Imagine doing that for an entire hour session. It's clinically proven to lower cortisol levels, so it makes you in a very relaxed state. That fight or flight isn't there, so you can have thoughts that might normally trigger an anxiety or panic attack and not have the thought associated with that fight or flight feeling.
All right, so you're slowly selling me on it. So how did it become this, like, because I feel like it's like a craze now. It's like everybody's doing the floating, all those athletes and everything.
Yeah, definitely. So essentially what it is you float in 10 inches of water that's saturated with 1,100 pounds of Epsom salt in there. So roughly 200 gallons of water, 8x4 room, 1,100 pounds of Epsom salt. Does two things, okay? Creates buoyancy, hence floating.
I hope so.
So you can float effortlessly without trying or straining 1 ounce of muscle, okay? Second of all, magnesium sulfate is what Epsom salt is. Most people are magnesium deficient. It's a very great detoxifier. It also helps with sore muscles and so forth. So, you know, the old grandma, this is my grandmother, was like, Epsom salt fixed everything.
Oh, you would burn a lot of things.
You got a migraine, stick your feet in some Epsom salt, in a smaller scale, right?
Yeah, okay.
So you're getting magnesium absorbed through your body, which is great for your muscles and loosens them up, which is that recovery aspect of it. But we're also creating a buoyancy for the sensory deprivation piece, where your mind doesn't have to compensate for gravity any longer.
It's like floating in space.
It is 100. That is the most. Actually, when I float and I get deep into a float, I actually start seeing stars, constellations and stars, because you feel like you're weightless. It's heated to skin temperature, the air and the water. So what happens there is it eliminates the feeling, the sense of feeling. So after 10 minutes of stillness, you kind of don't feel the water anymore. You don't feel the air. You don't feel your body. So you're really thoughts untethered from your body. Yeah, okay.
Going back into a little witchcrafty for me.
It's what happens in that space is pretty amazing. Okay?
It's just not a space that your brain is.
It's not a space that.
Except for then.
100%. So what happens is we're so connected. It creates a disconnect. You're disconnecting. We're in an age of instant gratification. If you ask me something and I don't believe you, I can find out in about 3 seconds on my phone.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so there's that demand, that constant being connected, and that fear of what happens if we're not connected. And what happens in that space of disconnection is you're getting back to what's really important to you.
Whew. Sounds like a place I've never been.
Yeah, well, it's a great place to be, and honestly, many athletes, we have athletes that do it for recovery. Okay, so you're an hour in there is equivalent to 4 hours of REM sleep. So the best way to restore from sickness, workout recovery, is rest.
So now, what else does it treat? So I know obviously anxiety. We've talked about that. It
Definitely
helps you, recover.
Yes.
What is there? There's other things that it can treat.
Stress disorder is a big one. So a friend of mine who is a clinical neuropsychologist is studying float therapy as a treatment for PTSD. Has already done a clinical trial and study on bulimia. So what we're finding is, and through testimony, is that people that suffer from different stress disorders actually get a break for days after a float where their cortisol levels are low. So the best analogy, the best thing that was said to me was by a vet was, I can be an observer in the world. I can go home after a float or the next day, see a new car on my street and say, hey, look, there's a new car on my street, and then go about my business. I don't have to say, why is it there?
That's incredible.
What's it doing there? And have to focus on that car until these questions are answered. So just being an observer in the world for these people. And I don't suffer from PTSD. I do have a stress and anxiety disorder, but not PTSD. And I can only imagine what kind of break that is for people.
I can only imagine what kind of break it's going to be for me, and I'm not even living on that kind of a level. So,
definitely.
So I guess you kind of answered why it helps anxiety. It's just kind of like
It's a detached. I'll give you another, and this isn't somebody that floats with us, but it's a book about floating that I did read, and there was a woman who had a very hard time with PTSD. She was actually a rape victim. And this is her testimony, was within there, you create the space, you're alone, and cortisol levels are dropped. So she was able to relive the experience over and over again in a float tank with lowered cortisol levels. So she had the thought that was not associated with the trigger of fight or flight. And she was able to do that so many times that it disassociated completely the thought with the feeling.
That's incredible.
So outside the tank, she was able to have that thought, and internally, she didn't get that spike of adrenaline, that cortisol level where that fight or flight.
No freak out.
So it helped her in that way. Yes.
That's really, I mean, I just figured, you go and you lie down and you float, and I'm thinking I'm gonna drown, but this is like legit. It's like a legit.
Definitely. And you have people coming here that doubt it, right? And exactly. I'm gonna tell you out of the gate, if you lay in there for an hour going, this isn't gonna help, this isn't gonna help, this isn't gonna help, what am I doing? It's not gonna help.
Right.
It does take a level of openness to say, okay, I'm just going to let go. I personally had floats where I have been blissfully unaware of anything, no thoughts whatsoever. My body needed a restore, a reset, if you will. And then I've had other floats where I've had these thoughts, aha moments of like, yes, that makes sense now. And what I've found is if I predetermine my float, if I go in there and say, hey, I'm having this problem in my life and I want to figure it out, it doesn't work. I need to just really surrender and let go in the float tank. And subconsciously, I know what I need, whether it's rest or whatever it is. I get in my own way. My first float experience wasn't the best. I sat there, I worked for a hedge fund, I was very stressed. And I went in there knowing I wanted to reduce my stress. So I literally sat there for an hour going, am I stressed? I'm still stressed. This isn't working. I don't think this is working.
Yeah.
I did not get out of my own way. So the last 10 minutes I go, well, forget it. I wasted money, big deal. And that's where I let go. And the music came on immediately after that. I'm like, whoa, wait, what's going on?
Go back.
I want back. I want more than whatever that last 10 minutes was. So I literally booked my next float for the next day, and I came back in the next day, and I hit that zone in 10 minutes. And I felt amazing for days, just slower, calmer. And when I say slower, I don't mean if you're going to throw a ball at me, it's going to hit me in my face. I mean slower in the sense that I really thought about things that were coming at me, and I really handled. Because at the end of the day, multitasking is not such thing. You can't do two things at once. You can't have two thoughts at once. Mm-hmm. But anxiety stems from trying to have that switching back and forth, one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. Slowing it down just makes the world a difference.
All right, you're making it sound like this is what I need in my life. I don't know how I feel about that. So how many times would I have to go before I would feel like...
There's no direct number, and people ask, how many times do I got to do it a week? Do I have to do it weekly, monthly? Every person's different, okay? The first float we like to describe is an orientation float, okay? It's orientation float because there's common human worries. I'm laying in water, am I gonna drown? That being the first one. I'm not gonna, I don't float. I can never float in the ocean or my pool. How am I gonna float? Well, it's science. You will float, I promise you, okay? And it may take that first float to get over those, and you will feel better. I tell people all the time, there's a light in there. Leave it on. If you feel uncomfortable, leave the door open. What will happen if you leave the door open is in about 15 minutes you're going to be cold and close the door, and you're going to go, oh, it's not so bad. And then 15 minutes later you're going to go, this light's on, let me just try it with it off. And you're going to go, oh, it's not so bad. So that's all time, right? We find what we try to promote here, and we discount it greatly, is the first time floater 3-pack, because we think your third float is the magic float. Okay. Now, granted, I've had people come with the magic float the first time. Trust me. Like, oh my gosh, those are people that are that let go of things very easily. I'm not that person.
No,
I need control.
Yep.
I need control.
Everything has it.
I need control over the situation. But that's the beauty of floating is floating song. It's like I can't control everything in my life. I can control everything in the float tank, but I can't control everything in my life, and I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have to go try it.
Nice. Sounds good.
This is Chris's dream come true.
It is my dream.
Getting me into a float tank.
I've been trying for well over a year now. A couple years now.
Okay, here we go. Let's get in there.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Normally in floats, you float in the nude. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to wear a bathing suit. Before your float, you're supposed to take a quick shower to make sure you rinse everything off your skin and everything out of your hair.
But that was incredibly relaxing. I'm probably gonna come back, so they got me. And I'm gonna say that floating is a treatment for anxiety, so get yourself to a float center, get yourself a tea afterwards, and just relax. Today we're here at, oh, I was stomping too much, okay.
Besides, there was a truck in the tank. Still recording. Okay, now if you move around too much, I'm gonna have to go a little bit wider on you, Molly. Okay. Don't move around much. Okay, okay.
It's very nice.
Do you want to be able to see?
I'm gonna drop my hands. Yeah, tap your elbow before you
People's
jump.
elbow.
Yeah,
My sister always says, "What's this?" With people's elbow.
with people's elbow.
All right, I stay.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this series, check out my new book, A Hot Mess's Guide to Getting Your Anxiety and Depression in Check, on Amazon right now. Go check it out. You won't be sorry.